Man, oh man, it's been over a year since Benjamin Moore crowned October Mist as their color of the year. And even though we've seen the direction of color trends shift dramatically from greens to reds, like pretty much polar opposite, this was a color that I really appreciated when it was finally given its moment in the spotlight. It's not the most dynamic paint color that ever existed, but what it does really well is it offers a more nuanced approach to what a neutral could be. Basically, it's a soft green. I'm gonna tell you why I think this color is just as relevant today as it was in 2022. And I'll give you an up-to-date color palette that I really enjoy using with it. If you like color palettes that you can use in your home, then show me by pressing that like button for me and the rest of the Paint People team. It's a lot of us. So I wanna start by reading you Benjamin Moore's description of October Mist. Evocative of the stem of a flower, this gently shaded sage anchors and uplifts. I don't think it's quite as green as a typical flower stem. I could be wrong, but I do get the whole gently shaded sage part of the description. That makes sense to me. It's pretty pale as a green, although it's perhaps darker than you might expect when you first look at it. Its lightness score, or its LRV, is 46.54, and this just means that it reflects about 46% of the light that hits it. Basically, this color is kind of a mid-tone through and through, and that means it should be fairly noticeable when you use it within your home. Typically speaking, as you get darker with your paint colors, there is an opportunity for them to feel a bit trickier to use because a lot of people won't have ideal lighting in many of their rooms. The good news is October Mist, it has the depth, but it definitely has some color to it as well that's soft, and it feels like you can get away with it in a lot of situations. That's what made it a really good color of the year for me, because of the fact that more and more people were willing to give it a shot compared to other colors like the current Pantone color of the year, which is just like a no-go on the walls. That being said though, if we're talking specifically about paint colors by Benjamin Moore named after months, I'm a big November Rain guy myself. But that's neither here nor there. So what are some other paint colors that you can utilize alongside October Mist in your home? Maybe you want a totally free color palette from me. I got you. The first one I want to go with had to be a lighter color just in case you wanted something more buoyant, let's say. And that's Frappe, a color that's as delicious as it sounds. This color is creamy, it has a nice balance of beige and a bit of peach as well, and it's really gonna bounce off of October Mist in the same space or rooms that maybe are connected to each other. The peach comes from a touch of orange, and orange is loosely complementary to green, which means they sort of sit on opposite ends of the color wheel. Not exactly, but there is a bit of a difference there. And this just means they're going to accentuate each other more than just two colors that are very, very similar. Our second color pairing is sort of in between the other two in terms of how dark it is. It's sort of kind of a mid-tone, but lighter than October Mist. It's called Tranquility, and this color has a few similarities to October Mist, both in terms of how dark they are, relatively speaking, and also the cool touch they have. Although with Tranquility, it's mainly about gray and blue rather than a toned down green. I love using similar colors with slightly different base color hues because it keeps some consistency within the color palette, but just gives you more options looks wise. I think green is going to be a little more comfortable, let's say, a little more happy, and blue typically should feel a little more sleek and serene. So you can keep that in mind if you're picking one over the other in a specific room in your home. The third color is gonna be a bit darker because we've been kind of going with midtones and lighter colors. It's called Anchor Gray. The first three colors, they felt more airy and comfortable, but Anchor Gray is the anchor of the palette. I mean, obviously. I just think it's kind of a prestigious dark gray that really does a good job at coexisting with everything else in the palette. It's very dependable and flexible, maybe leans a bit towards the cool side, which is good for October Mist. It's great for Tranquility, and it'll be a little bit of a strong contrast with Frappe. I love using it as a wall color in rooms that have much lighter floors comparatively, just so the space isn't overwhelmed by that darkness. So whether that's a kind of a brutalistic concrete flooring you might have, or just some bright, light wood floors, Anchor Gray can give you some really nice juxtaposition. Two trim color options I have for you are Super White for just a very light, clean option. Super White is probably my favorite white to use on trim, to be honest. It's just such a nice balance of being clean and bright, yet simple and straightforward. And for my second trim color, normally I like to give you a much darker option, and technically this is darker than Super White, but it's actually much lighter than October Mist. It's called Morning Dew, And you could call it a light cool green, although in some cases it may feel even a touch warmer than October Mist. Either way, that's another option that you can use instead of super white on your baseboards in woodwork and trim. If you didn't want to go pure stark white, which is kind of the standard, this is more of an off-white that sort of tones in a little bit more closely, more of a subtle look. Here's the palette all together. Let me know what you think. And here is the latest color of the year that we have to talk about. Very, very different choice here.